Alright, so this is like the last Tobi Roppo to have finally dropped. I know this is actually pretty well in. She is green defender. I was kind of hoping she's red defender, but she actually kind of cook. She is kind of the way I expected her to be. Was hoping she would be somewhat a little bit different or different, more unique with the wall user. But Black Maria is here. She cooks, she thrives. She actually can destroy Robin, which is actually impressive. I kind of like the way they did that. They reversed it in Bounty Rush. Anyways, Black Maria, really fun unit. Probably the strongest step up we've ever gotten, which is insane, besides Golden Week. And yeah, so let's dive in. Let's take a look at her guide. Yeah, hello! What's good, everybody? It's your boy Roppo here with your one and only, the major Tobi Roppo, Black Maria. Homegirl has phenomenal skills and abilities for being just a step up. So honestly, really good unit, really fun unit, and can actually do really well even if the meta's against her like it is right now. So anyways, let's dive in. Let's get started. We're going to dive in with our stat build. What stats should she build? You have attack, HP, defense, crit if you really want to. Wouldn't recommend it. I would generally go for HP attack, get as much HP as possible while stacking as much attack to follow that up. You could go defense, but that is entirely up to you. But I think attack is nice since you have so much damage increase. The more attack you have, you'll actually be able to fight off other attackers and stuff that are coming after you, which will assist you and actually help you thrive in the current meta. Now, if you want to go HP defense, you can, but there are a lot of people who ignore defense in the current meta as well. So honestly, defense at this point, especially where we're at right now, isn't too useful. So you can go HP attack. Your shield will be fatter. You'll be tankier because of your shield, and you'll be able to protect yourself, and then you can fight yourself off. So overall, that's my recommendation. Honestly, not really too many options to go for her. I don't, even if the meta goes out of ignore defense, I still think HP attack will be better just because defenders not being able to fight off for themselves usually is not too good. So would stick with this overall. Alright, next let's talk about some pros about Black Maria. Why is she good? What makes her good? Why is she actually kind of one of the best step-ups we've had this entire year? First one's first, she's a shield user. Shield users have always generally been pretty good. Recently, not as much because they've been making a lot more skills that go through walls for whatever reason. So, they've been trying to bust down shield users even though they were never really suppressive in my opinion. But anyways, it is what it is. Bandai's doing it. So, she's a shield user. If they attack her shield, they get spider webbed. It's their downfall, so she actually kind of deters you from attacking her shield unless you're immune to status effects. It's really the only way you can come after her, so that's that. Next one is her damage. She has loads of damage increase, which is really, really weird and odd for a defender. I think she's the only defender. She's probably has the most damage increase as a defender that we have to date, which is kind of nutty, even more than like most of the EX defenders, which is actually really crazy to think about. So really cool. It's nice because it feels good to be able to fight as a defender instead of just sitting there being a meat slab to get beat on. Next one is she actually has pretty solid heals. So she heals when she inflicts her web effect, and it's a good sustain. It's not like crazy heals, but it's like decent enough to keep you going in the fight. So you inflict your spider web, you inflict it twice when you use your skill 2, you inflict it when they hit you on your skill 1. If you can get that skill 2 cooldown, you'll be going and killing it. We'll get into the meta recommendations later on at the end of this video. Next up is she has the protection on walls. So not only do you have a wall, you are also going to be able to, like, she also has like a decent enough damage reduction to keep herself alive on her flag. And granted, it does have to be charged, so keep in mind you are relatively vulnerable if your flag is not charged. Just things to take note of when you are playing her, but overall really phenomenal. Can tank enough decently. Obviously adding a little bit of extra damage reduction is going to help you and go a long ways in the long run. Alright, next up, what are her cons? What makes her weak? Honestly, being a shield user, usually they generally make these characters revolve entirely around their shield. Black Maria doesn't entirely so much. She can fight without her shield, but obviously you want it up to protect you. You do have plenty of skill cooldowns, so I would worry about getting your skill 2 cooldown first. Now, most people, when they do are a shield user, they try to have as much shield cooldown as possible, but she actually has a lot of it built into her, so I generally would focus on skill 2 and damage reduction, just so you can kind of keep yourself protected and focus up on staying alive, to be honest. So her cons are that she revolves around her wall a lot in terms of protecting herself. Her damage reduction is insane, so that's a thing. The other one is that the meta kind of is against her with ignoring walls. There is someone like Who's Who, which actually you can fight against pretty well, but someone like Year 5 who's immune to status effects, he's the most problematic one because he has immune to status effects. He goes through walls with 2 of his abilities, as well as his defense buff. Makes him kind of difficult to deal with. You can reduce his defense by 30%, but that's usually not enough to get yourself enough damage to kill him. So if you had attack buff, maybe, but honestly the attack buff will probably hurt you in general with all people who have increased damage towards you. So just a thing to keep in mind of. And overall, so, and the other thing is she's actually kind of pretty vulnerable without her skills. She does have really good skill cooldowns, but if you're caught without your skills, you will be kind of easier to kill. Like, you're not that difficult to kill, in all honesty. You have 50% damage reduction while being on your flag while it's charged, but that's about it. And if your flag's not charged, then you're probably screwed and gonna get one shot, I'll be honest. So just things to be careful of when you're playing her. All right, next up, let's talk about the characters that you counter. So overall, anyone who's not immune to status effects, you can kind of dumpster if they don't have a 70% defense buff. So I think the only people we really have to worry about are Brook, Blue Kaido, and Green Luffy, Green Gear 5 Luffy. Those are the major ones with the defense buffs. You probably won't have enough damage to kill them if they're fully stacked. But if other than that, like, if you can status affect them, you got the kills. Those spider webs are disgusting. You reduce defense by 30%, which is huge, and I don't know if another defenders had that, or like another step ups had that. Not defender, but just step up. So that's actually a huge stat for a step up, which is insane. And other than that, anyone that you counter, you do, like, if you have color advantage, it helps significantly. It's just, if you can status affect them, you're golden. It's easy. Even Zoro's not that big of a problem for you. Next up is characters that counter you. Pretty much the exact opposite. Anyone that's immune to status effects. So you have Film Red Shanks can be problematic. If you manage to get the status effect on him, you're good. You do have your wall to help you protect and stall out his red area zone thing, but he can melt that pretty quickly. So it's things to be careful of. Gear 5, obviously, is probably your #1 counter, which does suck because he's the most played right now in the meta. Once the meta shifts, we'll see what it shifts to. Hopefully it's someone who can be status affected, and you'll actually probably be thriving again in the meta. But it's really simple. It's just anyone that can't be status affected, and they'll probably come dumpster you. Akainu can be annoying, but actually probably not too difficult to deal with because you hit actually a decent amount. So just be careful. Use your web to your advantage and work with it. Alright, last but not least, let's dive into some medal recommendations. So I made this sheet as I always do for my guides. There's kind of like a little bit of a hint and kind of try to be useful for y'all when you are going through and overall building your characters. Now, Black Maria is actually really simple. You want to go for skill 2. You want to go for damage reduction. And then everything else I think you're golden on for the most part. So just build your stats right. Get those. Now, generally, you do have, my top recommendations are probably the Bartolomeo set, which gives you damage reduction and skill 2 cooldown. Those are really, really nice. That will get your skills 2 back so you can fight and kill things much easier. And then the other one, even though it's not skill 2 oriented, it is the Kaido set. It gives you a little bit of damage reduction. It gives you overall damage increase while you're on your flag. Like, you have a lot of things going for you when you're on your flag. So Kaido set is overall just an insane metal set. It's going to be a while till we probably beat that out, and Luffy's probably the only thing would become a contender for it. Other than that, you have things like your Baroque Works skill 2, which gives you so much cooldown on your skill 2, probably the best skill 2 set in the game that's purely based off that, but it doesn't come with damage reduction, so that's the only downside of that. And it's old event medals if you're able to get these or have these. We do have that rerun shop. If you're able to see the Baroque Works, Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine's Day, I would strongly recommend getting these because these sets are phenomenal on a lot of characters. Other than that, I just kind of threw in some other good options. There's the Miss Sunday, Crocodile, Mr. 3 ones. That's just an easier set to get if you're a newer player and beginning. And then you have the Enel sets, relatively easy. And then an older damage reduction base set for the Fujitora, Sugar, and Cortisone set. You can run those as well. There are many other options. If you guys have some recommendations, throw them down in the chat. Feel free to read down in the chat to see if y'all can see other medals that you would like to try out. So anyways, that is my medal recommendations for Black Maria. I think she's really strong unit for being a step up especially, but she's actually able to fight and kind of hold her own and do many, many things. So that's all I have for you guys. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Be sure to check out like all my other videos, and guys, if you're looking for a specific character, I have trying to cover as many as I can, as well as my other games that we're covering. So that's all I have for y'all. I hope you have a wonderful night, morning, evening, whatever time it is for you. Be sure to check out my Twitch, Twitter, and Discord. I'm Roppo. I'm gonna be taking off. Yeah, holy peace, beautiful people.